Here is a number $55 trillion. That is China's total debt as of 2024. This is roughly 300% of its entire GDP. The entire GDP of European Union is around $19 trillion and China's debt dwarfs it. 30 years ago, China did not even have a functioning stock market, but today it is the most indebted large economy in human history. So, the question is not whether China has a debt problem, the question is what happens when it breaks. Now, before we understand the debt, we need to understand what China actually pulled off. In 1980, China was desperately poor. Nearly 800 million people lived in extreme poverty. Then Deng Xiaoping opened the economy, and what followed was the fastest sustained economic expansion in the recorded human history. The GDP growth averaged 10% a year for straight 3 decades. The economy doubled in size every 7 years. By 2020, 800 billion people had been lifted out of poverty, the largest reduction in human suffering in history. So, this is the context you need because the debt did not emerge from incompetence alone, it emerged from ambition. And this is where the story gets dark. Now here is the mechanism. This is how a 55 trillion debt bomb get assembled, so pay attention. After the 2008 global financial crisis, Beijing launched a 600 billion stimulus. China was not going to let the West crisis become its crisis. So the money flowed into infrastructure, highways, airport, high-speed rail, entire new cities. But here is the hidden machinery. Local government in China are not allowed to borrow money directly, so they created off-balance sheet companies to borrow money without it showing up in official debt figures. The shallow banking system fed this machine, wealth management products, trust companies, underground lending, a parallel financial system where trillions was operating outside regulatory oversight. So the debt was technically off the book, but that everyone knew the government was ultimately responsible for. Our debt bomb quietly tickling. Now meet the company that made the bomb visible. The company's name is Evergrande, the most indebted real estate developer in the history of the world. $300 billion in liabilities, more debt than the GDP of Portugal. And at its peak, the property sector accounted for roughly 30% of China's GDP. Chinese households had 70% of their wealth in real estate. For hundreds of millions of people, their apartment was their pension, their saving account, and their inheritance, all in one. Then Xi Jinping pulled the plug. The three red line policy, strict limits on developer debt, was a death sentence for Evergrande. By 2021, they began missing payment, and by 2023, they filed for bankruptcy. But Evergrande was not an outliner, it was a symptom. Over 50 Chinese property developers defaulted. Millions of families had paid for their apartments that would never be finished, and the thing that they trusted the most, which was property, was not safe. Now, if you want to see the China's debt made physical, fly a drone over Kangbashi. Designed for 1 million people and fewer than 30,000 people lived there. A complete city which is sitting empty. Analysts estimate that there are 65 million empty apartments across China, and these numbers are enough to house the entire population of France. These cities were not built because people needed them. They were built because construction was the engine growth and local government needed the numbers. So the ghost cities are the visual proof that China's debt was not funding productive investment, it was funding the appearance of growth. And the bill of the debt is coming due. And here is why this is not just China's problem. China consumes more than half of the world's iron ore, half its copper, and more than half its coal. The commodity economies of Australia, Brazil, Chile, and much of sub Saharan Africa have been built on one assumption that Chinese demand will keep growing. So, a Chinese economic contraction creates the revenue of every government whose budget depends on selling to China. And Africa is particularly exposed. Over 2 decades, China became the content's largest bilateral creditor. So if Chinese economy seizes up, so does its willingness to roll over those loans. And now consider the global financial system. The Chinese banks are now among the world's largest banks. A crisis of confidence would trigger capital fight, currency volatility, and credit freezes across emerging markets. The 2008 crisis was started in American mortgage markets and it went global in 6 months. And now consider that China's property market is 3 times larger. So, is the collapse inevitable? Not necessarily. China has tools that no Western economy possesses. The state controls the banks. If Beijing orders them to roll over bad loans, they roll over bad loans. So capital control means Chinese citizens cannot easily move money out, so no bank run panic. And the yuan is not freely convertible. Beijing controls its own exchange rate. So, in theory, they can absorb a slow deflation of the bubble, socialize the losses, and spread the pain. But there is a comparison that should worry them, and that is Japan. In 1990, the property bubble burst. Japanese authorities protected the banks, avoided hard write downs, kept zombie companies alive. They called it stability, but the history called it lost decade. Japan stretched for 30 years, and China is much bigger, more complex, and carries far more depth than Japan did. So the question is not whether there will be pain, there will certainly be pain. The question is whether China and the world is prepared for it or not.